One of the first AWX open office hours. This is November 2022. And first off, big thank you to everyone who's in attendance live and or is going to watch this recording later on the AWX YouTube channel. The agenda for today is we wanted to go over what is this meeting, AWX team introductions, which we have a lot of AWX team members in here today, so we might have to shrink that down a little bit. Mr. Gundalow would like to give a quick community monologue. Shane McDonald from the AWX team is going to give some high-level stuff that we're working on. And then we have a guest speaker, the InfamousJoeG from Cyberark, who's going to be talking about a couple PRs that he's made for us to discuss. And then with any remaining open time, it's just going to be open for general discussion. So what is this meeting? This is a way for y'all, aka the community, to connect with engineering. It's also a way for AWX engineering to connect with the community. It's discussion around PRs, roadmaps, things of that nature, general Q&A back and forth between everybody. This meeting is not intended for troubleshooting of specific issues or specific time for support. If you need help with issues or support, please reach out to us either on Matrix or on the mailing list. So team introductions. This is the list of people who said that they were going to attend the meeting. I think there's actually more than this on the meeting. So if anybody wants to chime in as to who they are, feel free. We want to keep this like maybe down to like 5 or 10 minutes. So Alan, you want to kick us off? We can kind of go in alphabetical order.
Hi, I'm the first one there. I'm Alan, coding on GitHub. I interact with a lot of community members in issues mainly, and I really don't have much else to say. Like if we have some shared context, then hit me up. I'm excited to meet anyone here. What should I say? I've been here since I've been on this team since Ansible was before Ansible was acquired by Red Hat. So I'm kind of one of the older hands. So I know a lot about the code base, and yeah, if anybody has questions about crazy decisions that we made, I probably have worse things that I know about it. That's kind of the way that most conversations go. Yeah, excited to meet you all. Thanks, John.
Christian, I don't think was actually able to join. I think he told me last minute he was going to get pulled away. Christian Adams, he is the man, especially for anything around AWX operator. You see him all over that repo.
I guess I'm next. Hello, my name is Hao Liu. I am one of the newest member to the AWX team. I'm really happy to be here. That's it. Yeah, ask all the hard questions to Alan.
Hi all, I'm Jessica. I am a quality engineer for Automation Controller, and you can reach me out on jstoted in GitHub.
Mr. Gundalow.
Sorry. Hey everyone, I've been with the controller team since March, but some of you may have seen me over the past 7 years looking after the Ansible community team. So I'm very happy and excited that my two interests of Ansible and community have overlapped again with a mere 6 months of me being back here. Yeah, I'm really excited. We've seen a load of cool stuff happening in the community and we're part of the Ansible ecosystem. There's been some great stuff happening here, so I'm really glad that the team can really focus. Ask me awkward questions, Gundalow on chat and GitHub. Thanks.
And I'm John Westcott IV. That's my handle on GitHub. I've been with the AWX team for about a year officially and a couple years in spirit.
Hi, I'm Lila Yassin. My GitHub handle is DJ Yassin, and I have been with Ansible controller team since April. So I'm also one of the newer members, and I'm very excited to get to interact with everyone in person. This is a very new and exciting opportunity for us.
Hello, everybody. My name is Luis. I'm working on the quality engineer team for the automation controller. The open source project is the AWX. And now I'm working more close to the Ansible automation platform for cloud providers. So recently on the Ansible Fest, we announced the AEP for AWS. So yeah, I'm here for, I don't know, 1.5 years. And yeah, that's me.
Hi, I'm Becca. I've been on the controller API team for about 3 years, but now this last year I switched over to performance and scale. So I do the same things, but focused from a different lens. I'm at Rebecca on YouTube and other social media.
Hi, everyone. I'm Rick Elrod. I'm a newer engineer on the team. Joined officially in April and had some things come up and personal things come up. So officially kind of started in August. And yeah, I'm really excited. I have a background in working with communities. Originally started on the Fedora team here at Red Hat. And so I'm really excited about this and excited to hear from the community and get to know more of our community and work with y'all. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Hey folks, I'm Seth Foster. I've been on the team for 3 years and yeah, very excited to meet you
all. Hi folks, I'm Shane. I've been around for a while. I was one of the first engineers that was hired after Red Hat acquired Ansible. So back in 2016, I think. I've worn a lot of different hats between test engineer, release engineer, team lead, and I'm currently the architect for the automation controller product and the AWX project. Really excited to kind of open this project up more to community involvement going forward. So really happy to have people show up on our first call. Hi, Joe. Yeah.
So if there's anyone else on the AWX team whose image I didn't get on here that wants to introduce themselves, go for it.
Hey, I will. Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm here almost 2 years. I am the automation controller QE engineer for UI. And I'm really happy to be able to meet some people from the community. And you're probably going to see my name on GitHub as AGIS 062381.
Anyone else on the AWX team want to introduce themselves?
I'll go ahead. My name is Vidya Nambia. I'm one of the newest members probably on the automation controller UI team. I just joined a little over a month ago. Yeah, and I'm happy to be on the team and participate in questions and answer questions. Thank you.
Yeah, my name is Alexei. I'm about a year in the quality team here in Ansible automation platform, and I'm working mainly with pipelines, with Jenkins, with different kinds of deployments. Yeah, that's it.
I'm Alex. I'm an engineer on the controller UI team. I work closely with Sarah, but I also work very closely with all these other people as well.
All right, last call. If anybody else wants to introduce themselves from the AWX team. All right, moving on then. Mr. Gundalow, you got 5 minutes.
Excellent, thank you. And I would just like to maybe chop out a couple of minutes for anyone on the community side that wants to say hello, because after all, this is your event, right? We're just here to facilitate. Anyone on of the non-red red? Pull my teeth again. Is there anyone of the non-red hatters would like to jump on and introduce themselves, say hello? Or feel free to put it in chat in the text.
I was going to give someone else a chance before I piped in, but
I could see you looking eager, Joe.
So yeah, my name is Joe Garcia. I'm a DevOps security engineer with Cyberark. Work with more than just Ansible, but definitely love how easy it is to work with, and so do a lot of contributions from the community to Galaxy just on my own, not even like work related, right? But also help out internally our business development technical team with building out the integrations, testing the integrations and things like that, a couple of which we'll see today, hopefully in the PR review section. So I don't want to take too much time so we can go there. I've been with Cyberark for a long time, 6 years as an employee, and then 4 years before that as a customer. So all those 10 years, though, have been automation focused. Unfortunately, I didn't find Ansible until like halfway through my employment at Cyberark. I could have used it a lot sooner, you know, when I was a customer and things like that. It would have helped out a lot, but I'm here now, right? And that's all that matters. So excited to meet everyone, talk to everyone, share ideas with everyone, and grow the community.
Thank you very much, Joe. Anyone else want to jump on and say hi? If not, feel free just to put some stuff in the chat. So I've not got any slides for this, but I just want to sort of set some context, right? Communication is hard. That's probably one of the underpinning things that I've learned after 7 years of doing community stuff. To that end, I am making everyone here a promise that whatever major relevant stuff that gets discussed in any forum, the team will put out via the bullhorn. So the bullhorn, and I'll stick the link in again in chat, is a weekly Ansible community newsletter. It is facilitated by Red Hat, but I'd say probably at least half the content comes from the community. So, you know, we're setting up this new meeting, so we'll be sharing the links to YouTube and the discussion and relevant PRs. One thing that the team has said we're going to be doing is trying to get the proposals and ideas out in front of people in advance. Right? No point us sharing proposals once we're at the final bit of writing a PR and we can't go and adjust anything. You know, you folks here are the users of this, right? You've got to keep us honest. Does this match your work case? User flow? Is this how you operate? Does it work for your scale? Can you think of a better way of doing it? So we're going to make sure like all the bigger bits of feature work and ideas we keep abreast there. Obviously, we're setting up this channel as well, this video on the YouTube for people to go and get involved. And we're going to try and be a lot more active on Matrix. We have seen this work in other parts of the Ansible community, right? There's a certain threshold where you get critical mass of both the people paid to work on this and the people that work on this as part of their day job, and it almost becomes self-sustaining, which is where we're not too far off. You know, we'll get a lot more discussion. There's also Reddit, so r/Ansible and r/AWX. They are huge communities. I think r/Ansible has got about 40,000 members, and I can't remember how many posts a day, but quite a few posts and even more replies. So some great stuff there. It was really exciting to see a lot of you in Chicago for Ansible Fest after like 3 years. The idea for this meeting came out of the Contributor Summit, so thanks for folks that suggested that. And that's the main bit, right? You know, I'm going to say again, keep us honest, right? Call us out in the channel, ping me directly if we're not sort of maintaining those promises that I've just made to you. This is for you, right? And we've seen this stuff work, right? You know, this has worked on the docs group, right? The documentation, Ansible working group, or dogs for short. They've got some cool stickers and mascot logos. We've built up a really solid community there. You know, it's all based on matrix. There's some asynchronous stuff in the GitHub issue. You know, I want to be very mindful of different people's time zones and work commitments. I know some people watching this video can't actually make this session, or don't feel comfortable speaking in English. Maybe it's their second language, or they just can't do that during the workday. So we're going to make sure that there are different channels that people can reach out and have synchronous and asynchronous discussions. That's about it from me. If there's any questions or thoughts about what we could or should be doing, happy to take them now. Happy for people to chat in the AWX channel. Happy for people to send me direct messages. But my only ask of people here is to go click that link above in the chat and go and subscribe to the Bullhorn if you're not already, because that's where we're going to start pushing all the information through. Thanks, folks.
Thanks, John. All right, there's no comments or questions. We'll go ahead and move on. Shane McDonald is our senior principal software engineer, and he's going to give us a high-level update of what the team is working on.
Okay. Hello, folks. I didn't exactly prepare anything to say here. If you were at Ansible Fest, John and I gave a roadmap presentation. So I was just going to kind of reiterate some of the stuff that we said there. One of the biggest things that we started seeing with customers over the past year or so is that people are using our software at a scale that we haven't been able to keep up with. So we're currently prioritizing figuring out how to change our application, re-architect parts of our application to be able to scale a little bit better. If you've deployed AWX on Kubernetes, you might have noticed that all of our services run in just like a single pod. There's a web container and a task container and a Redis, and it's kind of an elegant model. It kind of mimics the way that our product runs on VMs, but it doesn't really map to kind of like the Kubernetes way of running things. So one of the things that we're working on now is splitting the web service into a separate deployment from the task service. So that'll allow you to hopefully one day auto scale both of those components so that when the system needs more resources, either at the API layer or at the execution layer, that it'll just kind of automatically do it. There's a few rounds of iteration that we need to go through in order to actually achieve that. But we're starting to kind of move in that direction. Let's see, what else are we working on? I'm actually going to pull up that roadmap slide. It was funny, someone actually just opened up an issue 2 hours ago asking for the ability to deploy receptor nodes through a tunnel. We've called those hop nodes. That's something else that we're going to be working on. If you used a recent version of AWX, you might have noticed that we added the ability to add external execution nodes. So basically allowing jobs to run somewhere else that's not just directly on the control plane. So right now, the kind of initial implementation of that requires a connection to be established directly from the control plane to the remote execution node. And one of the things that we're planning on doing, I think in this upcoming release cycle, is going to be hop nodes, or what this person in AWX issue, I'll just drop it here in the chat for people who want to see the upstream issue. Someone already did. Thanks, Gundalow. So that's one thing that we know that we want to do. We've started talking, this might not necessarily be something that the upstream community cares about, but on the product side, we've started to add other components to the automation platform, automation hub. There's some other stuff that we're working on that kind of necessitates the need for like a central entry point into the platform. So with that, we'll need some sort of like unified authentication layer. Red Hat has an upstream project called Keycloak. The product version of that is called Red Hat SSO. So we're going to start looking soon into like what it looks like to kind of stitch all of that together with like a platform UI. Let's see. Credential types. Actually, Joe's on the call. One of the things that he wants to talk about is some enhancements to the Cyberark credential type and how to make that more secure. So that's something that we're going to be working on, along with there are some other credential types. Like there was a request to be able to, right now when you're using like the Azure Key Vault, we allow you to look up secrets. There's also the concept of keys in there that we don't support right now, but we've gotten a few requests, and I think that that's something that we're going to look into soon, maybe a little bit more midterm than short term. And I think that's it. So yeah, just to recap, a lot of our focus is going to be on performance and scaling, just allowing people to manage more infrastructure. We're going to be re-architecting the way that our WebSocket messages work. Right now, if you're running AWX at scale, you might notice that things get really sluggish and just sort of kind of fall over whenever there's a lot of jobs running that's pumping out a lot of output. And that's something that we're aware of and going to be kind of changing behind the scenes. So not necessarily like a new shiny feature there, but just kind of making the application more resilient. So yeah, that's about all I have to say.
Great, thanks, Shane. Any questions before we move on? Excellent. Moving on to our guest speaker. So Joe, you kind of already introduced yourself. I don't know if you want to give like a quick, like brief overview of what Cyberark is in case anybody isn't familiar with your product. And then if you want to talk about what you're trying to achieve with these PRs, and then we'll open it up to community discussion. And I think I can drop the links to the PRs in the chat.
Sure, yeah. So, you know, Cyberark is known for privileged access management, right? So we have a vault where you would store all of your different secrets, whether they're accounts, they are, you know, private keys, whatever you deem, right, protect that you want to protect, stored in our vault, and then we can automatically manage all of those different keys and accounts, regardless of what they're for, whether they're for a database or they're for, you know, an SSH connection to a Linux machine or whatever the case may be. We can automatically manage them. So really what this helps to do is keep organizations within compliance, right? There's a lot of industry, you know, compliance standards that are out there. You need to change your password every 90 days, things like that. A little bit hard to do in an enterprise scale when you have potentially hundreds or thousands of these accounts that need to be rotated every 90 days. So we kind of help to alleviate a lot of that load. And that's how people probably know us originally. Today, we do a lot more than that. We've shifted more from this privileged access or privileged account focus, like this very laser focus on that. And we've started to expand out to more of what we call identity security. So we'll take the identity, right, and protect it in all facets. So that could be a human identity that needs to SSO into, you know, Salesforce or other SaaS applications. We can be the identity provider that facilitates that. We can then use that human, and maybe they need to connect to different EC2 instances or VMs in the cloud, and we can do dynamic access, right, utilizing STS from AWS or other services and cloud services providers to dynamically create that access and allow them to broker a session to it that's still recorded and audited, and everything at the end of the day comes back to the fact that enterprises need to be audited for compliance and will need easy ways of being able to answer those questions. What we're talking about here today, though, is the non-human side of things. And that's really where I focus my work, is on the non-human automation, DevOps, right? Application, scripts, that side of things, where there's not a human user that you can give two factors to and trust that it's secure, right? There's no brain for the application for it to store a password. If it wants to store a password, that's happening hard-coded somewhere inside of the source code, which we know we don't want to do, right? It can't answer a challenge from some sort of something that it has, like we have tokens, right? Or we have our phone apps like Duo or whatever it is that you use that produce these one-time passcodes that we can answer with. Unattended automation can't do that, right? So we have to come up with different ways of being able to still try to simulate multi-factor authentication. And all we're really left with is the attributes of these different applications. And so what we really excel at is utilizing multiple attributes of these different automated workloads and applications and using that for authentication instead of keeping it, giving a token or a password over to the application or something like that. So that's what we do from the non-human side, very high level, right? I mean, I could spend hours talking about this sort of stuff. But when it comes to Ansible, you guys in version 3.5.1 of what was Tower, right? Now it's AAP. You guys created this external secrets management system idea. I think at the time it just was called input lookups or something like that. Input sources for lookups, or it was titled differently inside the product. Now it has its true name in AAP, where it's external secrets management systems. And we were lucky enough to be one of the initial companies, one of the initial vendors that was released as one of those hooks. And so the PRs that I have in place today, although I will admit there is one PR that apparently I made that I missed to open up, and I think it's 13071. So I'm actually going to need to click that link in chat myself to see what that is, because I completely forgot. Oh yeah, okay, I know that PR. I didn't even give that PR on the comment, so I'm glad someone grabbed it. All of the pull requests that I submitted are to basically bring up to date and kind of fix some minor things with those external secrets management system credential types, right? Because at the end of the day, the way that works is you create a credential type for the vault that you want to connect to, right? There's us in there, HashiCorp's in there, Azure's in there with Key Vault. There's a couple other ones. And at the end of the day, what you're basically creating is what I can easily, because it gets kind of confusing, right? If you come from Ansible, the project, you're used to look up plugins that you use in the playbook, and then you move over to AWX and you start using AWX, and they're called lookups in there as well. So it gets confusing. Is it a plugin? Is it not? So I kind of like to explain to people, it's more like you're creating a service connection. You're creating a credential type that holds the information for where the vault lives that you're going to be pulling the secrets down from. And that's just really step one. And so that's what these PRs are dealing with. The, quote unquote service connections or service brokers, right? If you want to call them that, that connect to Cyberark's products, because that's where I work, right? So I have an invested interest in that. The first one, 13126, is for what we call our central credential provider, and this is a service that runs, a web service that runs, and it accepts a GET request, one single REST API GET request, and that's it. In that GET request, in the parameters of that request, you would provide things like an application identity. This just equates to, a non-human username in our solution. You would give the information for the account that you wanted to retrieve. And based off of that information, we can check on our side inside the vault and say, okay, we've got a request coming from someone identifying as this particular application. Let's take a look and see what we have set up for trust on our side. We will trust it coming from these IP addresses or FQDNs or DNS names. We will trust that the client certificate attached to it not only is able first to pass through the certificate mapping installed on IIS to hit the web service in the first place, but it also has these attributes and has this particular serial number. And all of that has to check. And that's basically how we do that authentication of the request. And so with that, we'll then send back in a JSON response, right, to the request, the account's information. And so what this update is doing, though, there's actually two issues that are fixed in this PR. The first one was just very simply bringing the branding up to speed, because we've changed the name since it was initially introduced back in Tower 351. So removing the AIM, as you can see there, from all aspects of existence, that doesn't exist anymore. So we're just calling it Central Credential Provider. That'll never change. But the issue that was submitted by someone in the community, because I just decided, hey, you know what, while I'm here, let me fix issues in the community that they've submitted. There was one specific request from someone in the community to be able to use a custom web service ID. And we have a default one that we set up during install, but you're more than welcome to change it. And I guess someone in the community did that. And this was, the default value was hard coded into what existed prior to this PR. This PR now adds a web service ID form field as an optional item, right? It defaults to AIM web service, which is our default name at installation. But now, you know, people in the community who may change that web service name or have a different web service name can update that there, and we'll still continue to work. So it also solves, that's issue 10545 from the PR notes. So that's been around for a little while. So I'm happy that I could roll that up and get that fixed for someone out there that reported that issue. So that's that PR. Very simple PR to bring things up to date. Doesn't look like there's any questions in chat. I was just scanning chat. So the next.
So
yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
Sure.
So we invited a bunch of QE engineer here today too, and we have vested interest in making sure that these integrations doesn't break, and want to make sure that we test these integration in our content verification pipeline. So we have some question around, can you demo the change that you make it here, and how we should structure our tests around, well, our
so they
Cyberark
actually
integration.
gave us a tenant. I don't know if I had a chance to let anyone know that, but I got invited. I'm an admin. I can give, I think, access to our test engineers to that tenant, right, Joe?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'll go ahead and accept that invite, and then invite the right people. I don't know if you're ready to demo now, Joe, or we can schedule that another time.
Yeah, I think that we should schedule that for another time, because I have my like production type AAP up and running. The AWX container that I was testing with is blown away since I submitted the PR. But I can easily stand that back up again, right? It's just a container. I'm just not ready to go right now to keep the flow going with things and keep things going under time. So we can schedule that separately, and I'm more than happy to go over how that works. It's very simple. There's also a video on my YouTube that I can share in chat after I'm done talking that goes through not only this particular method, how to install, configure, and test with the central credential provider. And it was from Ansible Tower, right? Now we're AAP, but nothing's really changed there. And then also how to do the same with our Conjure Secrets Manager, which we're getting ready to talk about here. So it covers both angles, how to install, configure, test it, and then it would just be a matter of making sure that the brand changes are changed, and that we can change that web service ID for this particular PR.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Joe.
Yeah. Cool. So for 13121, that is a little bit different. Still updating the branding, because the way it exists today inside of AWX is it's called Cyberark Conjure Secrets Lookup, which is cool, right? Kind of, or secret lookup. Yeah. So it's cool. However, this is where the confusion came in from a lot of people in the community who are using the Ansible project, the CLI, because that's also the name of our actual lookup plugin that's available in Galaxy and in Automation Hub for that side of the house. So changing it to more align with our product name of Cyberark Conjur Secrets Manager, now we can make a differentiation with our customers between what's what, what's the actual lookup plugin, what is the lookup for the external secrets management system. So those changes are made throughout to bring that branding up to date. And I was able to slip in an additional issue because that's what I love to do, kill two birds with one stone. And the additional issue was the fact that we recently released a new SaaS version of our Conjur Secrets Manager. So, forever it was self-hosted, by the customers. Now we have a SaaS version called Conjur Cloud, which introduced an additional breadcrumb to the URI of REST API requests, which happens to be backwards compatible with the self-hosted Conjur Secrets Manager. Just for whatever reason, when we developed integrations, we decided we weren't going to use it. So I needed to go through and add it, and that's that API piece that you see there that I'm adding back in, that's highlighted in green. And I also fixed, while I was in here, I noticed on line 63, what was happening was we were needing to import additional, we needed to import a base64 package in order to, get a non-base64 encoded session token back, and then encode it into base64, right there. Yeah. So I was able to remove that dependency and just move to adding in the header to accept encoding base64. This way, when our service responds back with that session token, it's already base64 encoded for you, and you can go off to the races from there. So I don't know how that is actually something that was added to the API after the initial introduction into 3.5.1. So it was written correctly in 3.5.1 when it was introduced, but this makes it a little bit more elegant in the way that it's handling that, and we can remove a dependency there too. So I snuck that one in there. There wasn't an issue for it or anything, so it was just a one-line change. So I figured that would be okay. But that's the PR for this, and it it's covered in the video how you would set up the external secrets management system and test it and things like that. That I'll provide that YouTube link in chat so that you guys can add it to whatever collections you guys are creating, whether that's in the YouTube description or whatever.
So just to reiterate and confirm, you're saying that adding that API breadcrumb into the URL will not break any existing integrations?
Nope. It was optional in our self-hosted solution, but now it's required in Conjur Cloud. So I went ahead and added it back and tested it against both. You'll be able to test it yourself because you have the Conjur Cloud tenant is what we provided you guys to do a lot of your testing in. But you also have in the Red Hat partner demo system a deployable Conjur self-hosted. So that option exists in that RHPDS that you can use today and deploy that to test as well. So you can test the self-hosted, make sure it works there and things like that.
Do you all offer like a containerized version with like a free trial or anything like that?
Yeah, so I mean, Conjur is open source at conjur.org. The solution is containerized regardless of whether you go with the enterprise solution or you go with the open source solution. But yeah, that's conjur.org is the website that we hold all of that documentation. And there's, interactive tutorials on how to deploy it, how to actually use it with Ansible. That's one of the interactive tutorials that I built through Instruct. I believe you guys use Instruct as well for a lot of your interactive tutorials or maybe even workshops too. So it should be a platform that's pretty familiar to you guys in your community as well. That's conjur.org. I can add that link into chat. That is our open source solution. There's no difference between open source and enterprise with the exception that enterprise provides high availability, synchronization with our enterprise vault, and the UI, right? Open source doesn't come with that.
Hey Joe, about this PR, I had another question about the compatibility. So, for instance, this base 64 encoding you said was introduced at some point. So this change here would be incompatible with really old versions. Is anybody even using self-hosted really old versions that had before you had this base 64 encoding header? Or
no, there was all of our customers have been that purchased the Enterprise Edition have been upgraded to more recent versions. After this change was introduced, there was a vulnerability that was detected in some of our very, very earlier, like V4 instances, we call them, about 3 years ago before this change was put in. So everyone has come up to date. Also, the way that we deal with upgrades for our solution is very simple. Just, spin up a container next to the old version and then backup restore. So it takes about 15 minutes for people to upgrade, and they've automated it using Ansible and other tools as well. So it's easy for them to stay current with our solution. But yeah, we don't have anybody who wouldn't be able to utilize this except encoding. So that shouldn't be an issue anymore.
Okay, thanks for explaining that.
Yep, that was a good question. But yeah, so that's this PR here. Any other questions? Let me know. There are other ones that I'll be submitting. That'll be, we're working internally right now just to give you guys a little under the covers, idea of what we're dealing with at CyberArk. We have other methods of being able to handle authentication. If you're running Ansible on AWS, I see we have somebody who is from AWS that works with Ansible over there. And if you're running on AWS, well, if you have a role that is assigned to the controller instance, we can utilize that role in order to authenticate to Conjure in lieu of any other sort of secret needing to be stored or anything like that. So there's other authentication strategies that we can go. We're trying to deal internally with whether it's something that we want to include a choice inside of our Conjure Secrets Manager lookup, and then deal with an automation strategy in the code there, or if we want to create separate credential types, right, that we then contribute. So I'm more for figure out an authentication strategy in the single credential plugin here so that we can then swap between different authentication types and make that choice available to the user, whether they're running on Azure or AWS or GCP or whatever. It doesn't matter. Like, we have so many different ways of authenticating using those cloud service provider platforms. So that's kind of a future look into some more PRs that may be coming down the line as we start to make those decisions internally, how we want to handle that choice with the community. So pretty cool start though. Really, really excited that it's so easy to deal with. Like, it's just a Python script here that's interacting with the REST API. So when I found it, I was excited and I just started going crazy, making changes and getting things up to date and stuff. So thank you for making it very easy to work with. And the documentation too helped as well. Like, I don't know if anybody's gone exploring, but if you go to the credential plugins directory under AWX main in the project, there's a README that actually explains how you can create your own credential plugins from scratch, right? And it's just this on line 92, you're just providing a name, the inputs, and then the backend information, and from there it'll take it and make anything work. So if you have your own credential stores or your own things that you're using and you're like, man, I wish that it was out of the box with AWX, well, very easy to provide your own and contribute your own credential plugin like I have here. So hopefully the community sees this and sees how easy it is, and it gets some gears going, and we start to get more support from the security side, because the more security, the better. I don't care if it's CyberArk or not. So, but yeah, I think we have one other PR. I'll make it short. This is for the Conjure Secrets Manager plugin. There was some customers, actually, unfortunately, that found that they needed a version that was not the current version of a secret, right? It had been rotated once, and they were having issues with that secret propagating across all of their environments in a timely manner. So they basically needed to try the latest version of a secret And then if that didn't work, try the last version of the secret, because we store secret versions in our solution. And when they did that, they found that the original lookup was always pulling the latest version of the secret. It wasn't actually going back a version or doing versions at all. It was just always the latest version of the secret. And when I went and looked at the code, this was one of the first PRs that I did before, my mind exploded with ideas. It basically, we were just failing to provide the URL parameter in a proper manner. So I was able to add version equals beforehand and test this out, and it does work. So this has been fixed. If the version exists, then we'll go ahead and add the URL parameter to the end of the request URI that specifies the version that they put in the metadata of the external secrets management system information, and it'll pull back that particular version from Conjure. So that fix is one that has been out there. This one, I believe I even worked with the Red Hat SA that confirmed it with me, and then I was able to confirm it on my side and stuff. So this is definitely one that I would like to get reviewed. I don't believe it's actually undergone a review. The other two have been reviewed by one person and is waiting other reviews. But this one is definitely one that I do know an actual customer of the enterprise side of things is looking forward to having. So this one getting visibility is great. I was happy to see that on the list. So thank you.
And that was a fantastic PR walkthrough, Joe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me contribute.
We will work on getting the PR review and through our testing processes. And thank you guys so much for providing us with access to Conjure Cloud. It definitely make our life much easier, not having to maintain a deployment ourselves. So I appreciate that. Any question about the PR that Joe is proposing? Comments, concerns? All right, thank you very much.
Oh, I have a quick question, Joe. So when we're testing this, should we just test all three at once? These technically could be tested independently, right? But I'm guessing probably just to get everything up to speed, we could, like, for instance, create a branch with all three of these commits on top and then just test on that.
Yep.
Does that sound like?
They won't conflict with each other, and they should. There shouldn't be any conflicts or anything like that.
But they also aren't, like, codependent. Like, you don't need. Okay. Yeah.
Nope. Yeah. I mean, the two PRs for Conjure are dependent on the same credential type in AWX, but they won't conflict with each other. I didn't add code in both branches. I kept the code out of the first PR that I showed, knowing that there was another PR out there so you shouldn't have any issues with just adding them all to the same branch and then testing.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
And as we grow the AWX community, we're also looking for community maintainers, especially for the specific integrations, right? In the future, will you be okay with us, assigning you to Cyberark and Conjure related integration PRs and issues?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, even if it's not something that I personally can fix, if it's something that needs to go through business development, I am dealing with the customers more than they are, right? So I can always find internally what needs to happen, but using me as that broker is the best bet. I'm always in GitHub. I got my own projects out there, so I'll get the notification and work on it almost immediately.
That's fantastic. So I'm going to take this opportunity to plug the plug incentive for joining the AWX community. So I don't know if anyone noticed of this angry potato plushie that's being in my background. So this is the mascot for the AWX community. It's kind of cute. It's very squishy. For outstanding community members, we this is very, very limited edition, by the way. There's like a very limited amount of these. So for outstanding community members and people who want to help us maintain, we are sending out these. And Joe, you will be the second recipient outside of the controller team to receive one of these because of your contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. That's all. I love that thing, man. I'm gonna show it off to everyone.
Yeah. It's kind of a badge of honor within our team. After you break something, that's what you get.
That's awesome.
So, yeah. Also, I wanted to take this opportunity to show another outstanding community member who is not here today. Kiro Kobo is his GitHub handle. He after we in the last development cycle, after we dropped the ability to add remote execution node, he within 2 days he found a really bad bug and opened a PR and opened a fix for it. So we also sent him one of those as a swags. So like it's kind of the reason why I'm like, you know, focusing. I want to focus on the community because I think this is awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Cool. So we technically only have a couple minutes left, but the next section is general Q&A. Does anybody have anything that they would like to talk about for a minute or so?
I had a quick one. Where is the ansible.controller collection built in a separate repo from the AWX collection? Because I think there's a feature in 3.84 we might want to still support that got removed in the latest AWX, and I've already had to usually complain about it.
It's built out of the same source tree. It's just cut at a point in time, and then there's a script or something in the make file that subs out the name. But it's the same repo. We don't have multiple repos for the collection.
Okay, that's what I thought, and so I'll bring it up offline. That was one of the things. It was just like, oh, if it's a different repo, then it can be addressed there versus addressed somewhere else.
So one thing I'd love to hear, and I know people don't always like giving feedback in public, so feel free to hit me up in Matrix. Let us know if this worked for you, what you'd like to see different next time, right? We can alter this in any way that we are. Thanks for the links. In any way that you folks see fit. You know, as I keep on saying, that this is an event for the community. This isn't Red Hat's event. We'll do it more for publicizing. I think we got up to 30 folks on here, maybe half a dozen external, which is brilliant. We will get the next bullhorn is going out on Thursday or Friday, so I'll make sure we've got links to the YouTube recording, the office hours and bits, because as I said, that's the central place to follow. And for those that want to drink from the fire hose, as it were, come hang out on Matrix. Get more involved there, but we'll make sure we give the summary of all the cool stuff in the bullhorn. Cool. And on that note, we seem to be right on time. So once again, folks, thank you very much for your time. We will see you in the next session. I did realize I think we've maybe overlapped with the documentation Ansible working group. So we'll see if we can maybe tweak timings around, but yeah, we'll just keep adapting. Let's go forward. Well, thanks everyone for joining. Take care.
Thank you.